Okay, recording. Firstly, why listen to me? Why listen to me full stop? But why listen to me about divorce, building a divorce support team? Just a little bit about me, because I've got a little bit of time to kill before I start. My background is effectively, I started my working career in the armed forces in the mid-80s. Sue, I'm keeping an eye on people being admitted. I'm admitting them, and I don't know whether you are admitting them or not, or whether you're seeing the admission buttons, Sue.
Yeah, I'll keep admitting them so you
okay, so I can focus on what I'm saying. Yeah. Otherwise, it'll be gobbledygook, more gobbledygook than it might otherwise be. But so look, my background's this, and it relates to the kind of what I specialize in now, and what I enjoy doing, which is building teams for helping working with people on a team approach, helping them solve problems and things themselves. So my career started back in the mid-80s, very active time in West Belfast and so on, in the armed forces, army officer and so on, building teams, which was great. I then moved into my legal career, left the armed forces, became a lawyer in the early 90s, and very quickly realized that I was drawn again to team building, and trained as a collaborative lawyer and a mediator in the late 90s, 1997, trained as a mediator and a collaborative lawyer. And that kind of transition really more over to team building and helping people, working with couples rather than single clients, kind of shifted into kind of early 2000s when I trained as a commercial mediator as well, and commercial mediator, and again as an NLP practitioner in terms of communication and so on. And most recently, training, of course, with Sue and her lovely band of team members with the Divorce Coaching Academy as a coach. So everything's been kind of drawing me to this conclusion that I enjoy working with couples and indeed groups, helping them to establish a clear purpose for themselves, what they're hoping to achieve, and then helping them to put together that team with them. I'm the director and founder of Compass Resolution. My little cursor, there it is. By the way, there's a link on my overheads to more information should you need it, should you want to spend time, your valuable time exploring it a little bit. But I'm the director and founder of Compass Resolution, which is a business that models my passions, really, which is mediation teaming, the idea of helping separating couples work together and providing them with a support team to help them do so. And if you look at the website, you'll see that support team covers a wide spectrum of professionals, including divorce coaches, as you would expect. In fact, the heart of the process is divorce coaches and mediators working together to help the couple, which I'll talk to you about in this presentation. And I'm also author of the Divorce Manual, which is a manual aimed at essentially for divorcing couples, separating couples, providing them with a kind of pathway, if you like, resources. It's a central bank of resources and a pathway really to help mediators, coaches, and separating couple work together. It's a reference manual. It's taken a few years to create, and it's an evolving project online. So the next one. So what's a good divorce? What does it mean? Well, it means different things to different people. Of course, different. And so I'm trying to kind of encapsulate some of the key things I'm hearing when I talk to people and separating couples about what a good divorce means for them. What are their priorities? Often anchored entrenched in their values, their belief systems, their interests, their self-identities, and so on. And I hear things like, of course, and these will be very familiar to you all as well. We want healthy, happy kids, of course, children, as unaffected as possible by the disruption of what we're going through at the moment, the separation process. In many cases, not all, of course, separating couples want better communication, often linked to the next bit, which is a connected kind of alliance, a more connected co-parenting relationship, enabling them to raise their happy, healthy children together. That's the key. Very often, more often than not, that's the key aim that most couples want to is a key aim for people, and their motivation, by the way, often for working with the likes of us, divorce coaches and mediators. They want greater clarity. Clarity is a key theme, of course, when we're going through separation. From chaos to clarity. Everything seems very chaotic, lots of decisions to make, lots of things to worry about, agitations, anxieties, and so on. So they want greater clarity about the future, which is clarity about how everyone's financial needs, apart from other needs of so on, are going to be met. How are we going to house ourselves? How are we going to meet our financial obligations, ongoing financial support, and achieve, which you'll often hear, a fair financial outcome? Fairness, of course, means different things again to different people, but fairness is a key theme as well. And also the last one is, again, another key theme at the individual level. I want a greater sense of independence. I want to feel empowered about the future. I feel pride in myself, security, confidence, self-worth. so that the couple can take on the challenges of post-separation and thrive in the future. And I know many of our talks today are about working with individuals, the separating couple at an individual level, to enable, to empower, to motivate them, to enable them to thrive and make decisions in the future. And it all starts with this process that I'm going to be talking to you about, which is the kind of idea of mediation teaming. But it also involves getting the right professional, working the right person at the right time to meet their needs and so on. So what are the often challenges of mediation? The challenges that we, all of us, are there to meet. And I'm talking to you, of course, about the team. So what's this support team? What are the challenges where I need to design the team around meeting? Well, most couples experience a broad range. Practical, psychological, emotional, relational, and communication challenges when they separate, when their relation comes to an end. And they face the challenge of having to, as I call it, create, shape their new futures for themselves, their children, and their family, which must meet the needs, psychological, emotional, relational, and communication needs, and practical needs, which I missed off there. But of course, their needs for home, house, and so on. I'll let her into. There we are. Again, I've linked you to, very quickly, the reference to chapter 1 of the divorce manual at the bottom here. Are you thinking about separating, divorcing? Where I talk in much depth about, I talk directly to the couples in the manual about what they might, because often couples are thinking, my God, where do I go? Where do I start? Who do I speak to? How do I need to do this? What are my options? It's a bit like going to a mobile phone store and seeing thousands of mobile phones on the wall and thinking, my God, where do I start? Help me, someone, help me. And so they need some help. And I'll come on to in a minute where I think they should start, perhaps, and how to create that kind of pathway, help them to create that pathway and decision-making process for them. But those are the challenges. Again, the broad challenges. So let's look at the team, or begin to look at the team. Everything really starts with a purpose, in my view. And for me, I'm suggesting that purpose for most couples is the purpose of, or the need and the purpose to work together so they can separate together so far as possible. So here is my proposed purpose, if you like, or aim for the divorce support team, which is to work together as a team. That's the couple and their support team, supporting the separating couple to, here's a key principle, to determine their own futures, supporting them to work together when necessary and possible. It's not possible in every case, of course. They might be going through, gosh, I don't know, litigation, private court proceedings, and so on and so forth. But I'm talking here about a process which is aimed at, focused at, and determined to help couples to make their own decisions. Resolving any differences, creating solutions which achieve as many of the things of importance to each of them and both of them, values, interests, needs, and so on. Rooted in financial, children, relational communication, creating and crafting new futures for themselves and their children. If that is the purpose, if I'm speaking to a couple individually and together, and they want to do that, then that will shape and influence how I then decide to help them and what they need to do to help themselves. And that, in my view, is the start of helping them achieve a good divorce. A self-determinative divorce, a divorce where they make most of the decisions themselves, but supported decisions. Supported, as I call it, self-determination, the working together, support couples to shape their own futures. And that philosophy is enshrined in, as I say at the bottom, in my company's commitment, which is working together to support couples to separate together. And you'll see that all over the website, and you'll see that shape the design of the national team I'm kind of building and working with some fantastic people around the country. Okay, so let's assume that the couple, I said, yeah, we want to that purpose. We like the idea of keeping our costs down, avoiding court, making decisions ourselves. But my God, there's going to be all sorts of problems. You haven't heard about him and you haven't heard about her and so on and so forth. So help me, please help me, give me some support. Help me do that, achieve that purpose. And so this is what I would say to them. Early decisions and early pathways and signposting is incredibly important. So we're talking about the process here. I call it meeting the need for coordinating and managing early support. So we're talking about the divorce support team. And of course, if it is truly a team, not a gaggle of individuals working individually in their own silos, if it is a team that they're looking for, then we need to look at how we're going to integrate that, join it up, and keep it as cost effective as possible, cohesive, and so on and so forth. All the aspects and principles go into team building. So I would say that early identification of support they're already receiving is important to establish. Are they getting help from family, friends, colleagues, professionals, or organizations, processes? Where are they getting their support from? I need to know if I'm going to work with them, where they're getting their support from. Is it solicitors and so on and so forth? Is it helpful or unhelpful? Is it going to help them? Is it going to help them achieve the purpose of working together to make their own decisions and so on? So early identification of support already received. Early assessment of a suitability and readiness for a joint process. If it's mediation, what I call supported self-determination. There are a number of processes out there. There's co-coaching, coaching, and mediation. But the main differences between processes are, do they focus on helping couples make their own decision, or are they removing decision-making from the couples? Are they court processes, private court processes, FDRs? That's all about not supporting lawyers, clients to make their own decisions. Or are we in a process like mediation or coaching where we're helping couples to make their own decisions? So we need to assess that and their readiness and their ability and so on. So that ultimately we can create or help them, we can shape and create a kind of safe, secure environment from which to enable them to do that, whatever process we're working with. Early preparation and support to help them work together. In terms of relational communication, I'm often find myself when I'm talking to couples, what can I do at a individual level with my skills and so on, help them to communicate in a more functional way, so they can begin to make decisions and craft and shape outcomes themselves. So kind of an early preparation support, lots of things we can be doing to help couples do that. Early gathering of relevant information, really important. If you speak to any professional we're talking about, financial professional or child professional, they often say the earlier we can see the couple, the better. We can then help them gather the right information, understand the information to help them make informed decisions and so on. So early relevant information is really important. Early identification of professional support they need and managing expectations. Early identification of the need for signposting and referral to key resources and support programs like my fantastic divorce manual, but kidding aside, all sorts of things, parenting programs, other organizations. There are lots of people supporting couples out there, and I'm sure you all have your own networks and your own organizations you favor and work with. Obviously, we need to be working with them closely. And early signposting to information and resources to support the aims and needs that they have, and the aims of the process, which again is to help them make their own decisions about finances, children, and so on. So that's the kind of start of the team building process, of building that support team that I'm talking about. So is family, I'm not here to kind of promote just mediation, by the way, of course. There are lots of ways of cracking the nut, if you like, but if is family mediation teaming the divorce support solution? Well, what is the purpose of the idea of mediation team? Well, first you take mediation process itself. It is a neutral facilitative hub to help couples have the kind of conversation, a good enough conversation, if you like, a good quality conversation, to be able to make decisions together and make decisions together and reach outcomes and so on together. And so what does mediation teaming provide? Does it kind of meet those requirements? Well, it provides a joined up family support team and resource support solution. It's appropriate to the separating couples' specific needs and budget. It enables and empowers them to work together, to make decisions together. It's effective and cost effective because it involves a central guide, if you like, the mediator, facilitator, helping the couple work with whichever support experts supporting them are identified as needed along the way. So there's a kind of team facilitation process to think about, convening the right team, helping the couple make decisions about who to involve, how to involve them. And then there is the communication itself between the couples, which the mediator is helping them with, giving them and their children the experience, hopefully, of being fully supported throughout their separation journey and beyond into separation and divorce recovery. Again, you'll see the reference below. You can look at a lot more detail about this. The family mediation team on the website. There's a whole team there on my website, all working together, attending workshops together and learning from each other. It's exciting times, and all with one purpose: to help separating couples decide their own futures. So what kind of needs might the separating couple have in terms of problem solving, finding solutions, and so on? Well, here we are. We've got the parent and the children supports team. How am I doing for time? 15 minutes. I'm probably talking a little too fast, so I'll slow down. We've got the parent and the children supports team and services. The key here is, or the aim is, working together to support the separating couple, together or individually. They could be working individually with coaches, parenting experts, child experts, psychologists, and so on, all working together in a process like mediation, supporting their own and each other's needs as parents, supporting each other's parents, so that they can support their children's needs. What kind of services are we talking about here, and what kind of resources are we talking about here? Well, many parents come to me as a mediator saying, we need a plan. We need some kind of structure to our arrangements, parenting plans. And there's some great resources for that. Of course, I would say my divorce manual, but there's some great external organizational resources. CAFCAS have recently launched a fantastic, I think it's great, online resource there where couples can work online, create their parenting plans together or individually. And so I've got them doing that individually and then coming into mediation to discuss their individual ideas for that plan so that we can construct a plan together, can facilitate that. So they might be working individually with coaches, putting together their plans so that ready to come into mediation, perhaps to work together with me. That could be working. Then there are, of course, individual communication skills, mediators, divorce coaches, therapists. Then there's co-parenting communication, slightly different, of course, how to communicate as a couple, trying to overcome that challenge, of course, of I could call it anything, reformatting, restructuring a relationship that hasn't worked, their marriage, if you like, and creating something that has to work for themselves and their children, a co-parenting relationship, and all the challenges that are involved in that shift from, or that transition from a marriage to co-parenting, successful co-parenting relationship. That might involve at a much deeper level, of course, the agency level, individual emotional psychological support, again, from mediators, coaches, psychologists, therapists. What about the children's voice? That's a big theme at the moment, has been for a few years. The children's the need to respect children's wishes, feelings, and so on. How do we factor those? How do we integrate those, the children's voice into the decision-making process when parents are talking about their parenting plans? How are the children's voice, how are they going to feel heard and understood? Various ways to do that. There are various mechanisms to do that. I tend to use direct child consultants, maybe specifically trained mediators to come into the process. I sometimes use psychologists, therapists, and work with those specialists within the process. Then there, of course, are parenting and children's support organizations, both public and private, parenting programs, public and private, court programs, private programs. And I know some of you may offer those programs as well. Fantastic. And just general information about children's needs. For example, there's a chapter in the divorce manual, and there's lots of online resources about the impact of separation and divorce on children. Our job is to help parents, if they're not educating themselves, to help them to educate themselves, to get them, signpost them to information and so on. All this going on needs to be centralized in some kind of form. There needs to be some kind of coordinated, joined up provision of information and communication support and so on. You'll see a link down here again to support divorce team, comes to resolution, and various chapters of divorce manual, again, linking to various subjects. But again, I stress, although I'm referring you to the divorce manual, if you look at it at all, you'll see in the resource sections, it points outwardly to some fantastic organizations, including some of your organizations and programs and so on. The idea is it's a hub for parents and couples to be working from. So that's the resource, it's a children resource. What about the finances? Well, that's probably equally as complicated and potentially confusing. So the idea is we try and make it as simple as possible for the couples by giving them information, helping them make decisions, creating pathways, frameworks for them. And so we work together. Again, the key is to work together to support the separating couple, together and individually, with gathering the right information for their purposes, understanding the information, applying the information, exploring options, reality testing their own reality, creating and crafting solutions, and reaching successful, fair outcomes, in inverted commas, in mediation and beyond. So when I'm working with a couple, I can only talk about my own main practice, which is mediation and divorce coach. But when I'm working with couples together, I tend to use the mediation process and design that for their purposes. And if it's finances I'm working with, they're just as I was this morning, actually, working with a couple, they were working with various aspects of their finances. And very often when they're more often than not, actually, couples do need external experts to support them to make informed decisions and reach fair outcomes. The challenge then becomes enabling or helping them put together a kind of an approach that's going to be, I don't know, contained, integrated, joined up, cost effective. Otherwise, it can quickly become polarized and out of control. And of course, there's quite a lot goes into what I'm talking about there. But essentially, things like property valuations involving surveyors, estate agents. Some couples turn up with no evidence at all about the value of their properties. They fall out about it. They have a different view about what their family home is worth. Let's say mum wants to stay in it. Her interest is in keeping it as low as possible. Dad wants it sold. He wants it as high as possible, and so on. So there are competing interests at the heart of this all the time. And often the way to solve that is a process solution. We outsource that decision about the value to an expert to give an opinion. So asset valuations could be all sorts of assets to be valued, a whole portfolio, pensions, bonds, ISAs, all sorts of different things out there at the moment. And that might require working with a financial advisor, either together with the couple as a neutral or individually if one of the couple need more support than the other. So I was working with a couple a few weeks ago. They had a fairly large estate, a few million quid. The father was the business owner. He had a number of businesses, and the wife was essentially the mother, with working incredibly hard with 4 kids and so on. And there was a clear power imbalance there financially to redress. And so what we agreed as a team, her, him, and me, that we would assign to her, enable her to work with a financial advisor herself to help her do these top things, to collect information, understand information, apply information, explore options. She needed a bit more support. So that's what we did. There are liabilities, debt counselors, there are income. If, for example, they are talking about spousal maintenance, I don't like the word, by the way, ongoing financial support from one to the other, then you might need an employment expert to help with earning capacity. You might need a budget expert to help with putting together income spreadsheets and so on. We've got all those experts on our website and out there as well. You've got all your own experts, I'm sure, to help you and to work with. We've got the legal experts, the lawyers. Where do they fit in? Well, if the couple are trying to make decisions themselves, then the lawyer's job is to support them to do so, not to take over the process, to control it and find solutions themselves. It's to help the clients reach their own solutions. So what I call it a lawyer-supported process. And again, there's a whole chapter of that in the divorce manual if you want to find out more about that and how I work and so on. Then there's things like forecast modeling, that kind of pulls together all sorts of things. So if you say to an IFA, can you predict, given my outgoings now, what I'm going to need in a year's time, or what I'm going to need for my pension in 5 years' time, and so on. The IFAs can insert all that into a model, forecast modeling, and they can bring that into mediation and talk with the mediator and the clients about it to help them find solutions. Fantastic stuff. It's all interesting. Then we've got pensions. Goes to the whole knotty area of pensions. And the question is, do you need a pension expert or not? If you do, are the clients going to instruct them with your help or not? Or do you get lawyers involved? So many decisions. And the idea of teaming, mediation teaming in my world, is establishing processes and systems to help couples make decisions and do as much of this for themselves as they can. Why? Well, to keep their costs as low as possible and keep them out of court and working together. Business interests, very often small businesses or family businesses, or much larger cases to deal with, holding companies, overseas trusts and so on. Then there's tax implications, accountancy and so on. We all have our favorite accountants. In my case, I've got accountants who are used to working with my clients in mediation, supporting them and so on, and things like wills and trusts. Finances, so how am I doing? 224. Last overhead, just try and put it together. So what we're talking about here, what I'm talking about, because we're not talking, I'm doing the talking. What I'm talking about here is the integrated divorce support process and team. Why integrated? 3 circles. At the heart of it is the separating couple, absolute heart of it. That's the key to this process. The joint decision makers in the decision-making chair. And if we take that process and if that's our purpose, the question then becomes, how can each of us, from our own perspectives and our own expertise, help that couple to make decisions about things that are important to each of them, meeting their needs now and the future and so on, helping them to craft and construct their solutions. We might need a team, and that could be as simple as just one of us, could be mediator coach. It could be as complicated as I've worked with 12 different experts, all coordinating around that central purpose of helping the couple. And then there are the resources, programs and organizations. In my world, I generally start with the divorce manual because it's what I know well. And then we work from there, to working with other organizations as and when we do. And that is the support team. In essence, it's using an integrated divorce support team. Great resources. Mel can join us, just like coming to the end. Lucky Mel, using an integrated divorce support team, great resources, and the process of mediation teaming, the idea of working as a team within the neutral facilitative model, is, in my view, you can disagree with me if you want to, that's perfectly okay. In fact, please do disagree with me, that's fine, is the best way to help separating couples achieve a good divorce, remembering that the definition or the purpose I gave it. Well, that was